Hello, everyone. The theme of this week's newsletter is about two items that are unrelated, related in that they both touch on immigration, but they're unrelated within the world of immigration. The first is a really important deadline that I want everyone to know about, and that is on April 22nd, the registration deadline for the Mendez-Rojas lawsuit happens. And what that lawsuit is a protective class action suit for asylum seekers who have been in the United States for longer than 1 year and who have not filed their I-589 asylum application. Typically, there's a 1-year deadline for getting your asylum application in, and after that, it becomes much more difficult to qualify for asylum. And lots of people, thousands of applicants over the years, have missed out on their opportunity to qualify because they didn't file within a year. Many of them didn't know about the 1-year deadline, and that's a basic core of the lawsuit, that immigration authorities don't do a good enough job at communicating that deadline, and therefore all of the people who didn't know about it should now be given the opportunity to apply. So that's this week. And immigration lawyers all around the country are madly scrambling to get asylum applications filed for their clients, us included. We've got a ton that we're pushing out this week. But hopefully anyone who sees this, you know someone who wants to apply for asylum, is in asylum proceedings, is thinking about applying for asylum, and they've been here longer than a year. Please communicate this, forward this newsletter, spread the word far and wide. April 22nd is the deadline to submit your I-589 if you want to be considered under the Mendez-Rojas class and therefore protected against the 1-year filing requirement. So that's item number one, most important, got it out of the way. The other thing we've been talking about this week is conditional permanent resident status, and that's the 2-year green card. So whenever anyone gets permanent resident status, it's a lifetime status, and typically they get a green card for 10 years. It's valid for 10 years. The only exception to that is when someone gets their green card through marriage and they've been married for less than 2 years when they get their green card. And the date that counts is the date of approval of the card. So it could be the date of the interview, it could be the day after, it could be 2 weeks after, but the moment that the immigration officer enters the approval is the date that counts. And so they look back, and if the marriage is less than 2 years old, then the beneficiary, the immigrant, will get a 2-year conditional permanent residency. So there's some ways you can work with that, like you can wait to file after you've been married for a year, or if you register a common law marriage in Texas, for example, you can backdate it, but then you have to consider old tax returns. So there's some ways to think about and control this. And these are things that we can help our clients work through in a consultation. But the key thing to keep in mind is a conditional permanent resident needs to remove the conditions on their green card at the end of the 2 years. So the best time to file is 90 days before the expiration of the conditional green card. And typically the way that you do it is you provide new recent evidence that this is a valid marriage, that you're living together, you're sharing your finances, that everything's going well, it's still a good faith marriage, right? That's the way that most people do it. You submit it all by mail, and a new change in immigration is that you don't, not everyone has to attend an interview anymore. That was a policy under Trump that greatly delayed the processing time on these cases. So we're seeing like 2 years or longer for some of these cases. Now they're going to start waiving interviews, and hopefully that'll speed things up. But the other thing I want to mention is that there's lots of people who get married and it's not working out, either because, just typical problems within a relationship, or there's even abuse. And what I want to communicate is that to the immigrants who have the conditional green card, there are ways to remove the conditions even if you are separated or divorced. So there's 4 ways to do it. The first is this was a valid marriage that has now ended in divorce, and you have to submit evidence of the divorce and also as much evidence of the good faith marriage up to the divorce as you have. The second most common in our office is the abuse or the cruelty waiver, and that's where the beneficiary shows I'm either still married, I could even be living with my spouse, or we're separated or we're divorced. That doesn't matter. And the deadline doesn't matter. You can file early, you can file late, and I've been subjected to cruelty. And so you could have a police report, you could have a counselor's letter, the traditional evidence of cruelty, or you could just have an affidavit and explain what's going on. The third way is if the petitioner has passed away. And then the fourth way is through extreme hardship to the immigrant. And you can think of that like an asylum case. So it's got to be extreme, and you have to consider, and prove that the conditional green card holder can't return to their home country. So you would talk about their life story, their family, their kids, dangerous circumstances back home, et cetera. So it sounds easy, like, oh, hardship if I don't continue my green card, but it's actually a pretty stringent requirement. So the most common ones we do are divorce and cruelty. We do tons of these at our firm. I can't remember one that we haven't been successful in. So we know how to do these. And the reason I share that is because I want people to just be able to relax. Like when you are a green card holder and you're in a marriage and it's falling apart and you've got to remove conditions, it's a very stressful thing anyway. And then to have the immigration burden weighing on you, it's even worse. So try to relieve that stress, focus on what you need to do in your marriage, and call us and we'll help you figure out how to extend your green card. So hope everyone has a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.